in September of that year. So obviously good few months afterwards, between that January and September time. However, just like the last family, the parents of the boy were once again brushed off by the police. When they reported their son missing, the police stated, quote unquote, "Without a body, there is no case." The police didn't feel the need to investigate any further.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, without a body, there's no case. I mean, isn't that the point of the police investigating?
Isn't that the point of the case?
Find the body? It's like, if someone's missing, isn't that the job? The job isn't to just declare people murdered or dead, right?
No.
That's not the job. It's like, oh, if there's a dead body, then that's fine. It's like an easy case. If there's a dead body, that's an easy case for them. You need to actually do some investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit
definitely. That doesn't make any sense to me, that.
No, and me neither. But like in a lot of the episodes we do, the police, sometimes, like I say, the police do good jobs, they do bad jobs. This one, they do a bad job. Mm-hmm. But I think for a very different reason than what they normally do, maybe. Normally, I think it's like because it's like gay dudes or people in the community and they don't give a fuck, but I think this is a bit different. They just seem bad at their job or lazy, actually. The speculation, though, is that the police didn't want to admit to potentially having a killer on their hands, as they wanted to avoid a social panic. In doing so, and not sharing any information, they were obviously unable to warn people of the potential danger, and so more young men would continue to disappear.
I can understand why they don't want to do that, because they don't want to cause that panic, like you said. But I think that panic needs to happen to make sure people are vigilant. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what they were expecting to happen. Like, if you tell people there's a potential serial killer out there trying to kill people, people aren't going to go riot in the streets and loot in shops, right? They're just going to be a bit more wary of the surroundings and protective of things, but I don't know. They seemed... that's just a thought, anyway. My thought... We can come to conclusions why we think the police are fucked in this story later on. What Huang Yong would do is he would stalk the local video game arcades, internet cafes, and movie theatres looking for victims. Most of them were either migrant workers or teenagers from the local boarding schools. Apparently the boarding schools there, I don't know if they worked exactly... It doesn't seem like they worked exactly the way that ours do. It doesn't seem like it was like the rich and wealthy that would go to the boarding schools, because I read something where it was there was no high schools available there, so they just sort of shipped them off to these boarding schools.
All right.
I don't really know how it works. I don't really know that the education system works in China. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be... It wasn't like rich, affluent people. It was not. It was the opposite from what I could find.
Okay.
In this area, anyway. Once he'd chosen his unlucky victim, he'd spark up conversation with them and begin sort of befriending them. So he'd sort of see someone, think, targets are set. Walk over to him, just start making general chit-chat conversation. And then in that conversation, he'd drop in that he was actually a video game developer, and that he could either offer them high-paying work or be able to help fund their tuition fees there. Of course, all of this was just a sort of... It was a ruse to make him look like he was a very generous, nice, caring man. But no, don't worry, because he's only 27 at this point, so he's not like an old creepy guy. He's like just maybe a little bit older. It's like, he could be relatable.
Yeah,
he's old enough, he's young enough to be relatable to these people. And also, I'll show you a picture later, but he doesn't look old or anything. He looks quite youthful. Once he felt that his victim was fully convinced of his facade, he'd tell them about a new video game that he had made, and that he'd love to show them it. They just needed to come over to his house. Which, if a stranger invites you to his home to play a video game, don't do it.
No.
Don't do it.
It reminds. Sorry to interrupt. It reminds me of that clip what we're seeing on YouTube from like a early '90s kids TV show, where he went to that guy's basement and he started doing a surfboard video game.
Oh, what was that? It was like a Nickelodeon show, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, and it's like the episode's like a PSA sort of like don't talk to strangers, and the kids like exchange. He
buying bootleg games,
buys bootleg video games off this guy, and then the guy takes him down to his basement where he's got like this weird surfboard set up with a green screen behind it. Tells him that it's a video game, and all that they're doing is standing on a surfboard, wobbling around on a green screen. But then he tells them to like get in their underwear and shit, right?
Yeah,
and that's when the kids are like, "No, I think I gotta go," and then they walk off. Oh, I can't even think of what that was. Maybe no. That episode was way before this, definitely. I was wondering if maybe that's what they were inspired by. But the video game that Yong said, you're never going to guess what it was called. It was called God Riding, which sounds like an amazing game, right? God Riding.
To be fair, it's translated, so...
God Riding? That's true. It could sound super cool in Chinese. So once the boys would go to his house, which I'm wondering why they didn't suspect anything, because he says he's a video game developer, but he lives in like this really crummy, shitty house. Mm-hmm. Like, why wouldn't you look at it and go, are you sure you can afford my tuition fees? Because you can't even afford your home. Yeah, when they were there, Yong will give them a couple drinks to get them drunk and then convince them to test out an entirely different type of game. He'd get the boys to lay down on an old noodle processing device that he converted into a kind of hobby horse type thing. So you can picture like a hobby. It just looks like a big piece of... It just looks like a big slat.
Okay.
Kind of imagine those things that you jump over in school. The hobby horses, you know.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Looks a little bit like that.
Okay.
But when I read it was a noodle processing device, I immediately thought one thing. But don't worry, we are not making human noodles today. But that's where my mind went. That's where my sick mind went. Did yours do that as well?
Kind of.
Thinking he was going to grind them into noodles? No. The story doesn't get that grisly, but you know there could be parts of this that we don't know. And I definitely think there are a lot more grisly details out there that we don't know. Mm-hmm. But I'm fine with not discussing those because the case is interested anyway. That's why I thought, let's do it. While they were on this hobby horse thing, the boys would be convinced to have their hands and feet tied and then told to count to 1,000 to be released. I've put a note here. Sick game.
Fuck.
I mean, if you were going around someone's house and you were eager to play a video game, and then they said, here's a new game, tie up, count to 1,000, then get released. I'd be like, that sounds like the worst game.
Yeah, did he still think it's like some part of a video game where...
No. He was just like,
oh,
this is just another game. Do you want to play this? But I suppose he got them drunk as well. I don't know if drugs were involved or anything, but that's what I mean. I think there's little bits of this which haven't been released. Yeah. It would be at this point, Yong, with his victim now trapped, would proceed to violently sexually assault his victims before strangling them with a piece of rope.
Jesus.
FYI, the county courts would leave those specific details out of their statements to the press. So they wouldn't mention the sexual assaults. And also they changed the strangulation with a rope to the suffocation with a piece of cloth.
What?
So that's what I mean. I think there's parts of this which have been not released to the public because somehow
it's got like a sexual undertone. Well,
maybe
it's not an undertone, but it's sexual.
There's a sexual element, and I feel that the people who are in charge have tried to make this lesser than it is. I feel that in my bones that they're trying to go, well, at least it wasn't sexual. You know, they've got suffocation. Yeah. They've not made, because I don't know. I think they're trying to make the image in people's minds of this when they talk about it, not this horrible, brutal, violent situation, which it clearly was. I think they tied them up and then quietly suffocated with a piece of cloth. See, rather than this horrific, violent, sexual thing than being strangled with a rope, which is a lot more horrific. Both are horrific. You know what I mean? It's weird.
It is bizarre.
But that's why I definitely think there are some grisly details and there's some elements of this which have been left out. So once Yong completed his sick little ritual, he'd then take the boys' bodies, chop them up, and bury them in his backyard. Fun fact. Go on. Fun fact. Because this Yong knew the police seemingly weren't doing anything to investigate.
Yeah.
So he actually left just the once a pair of one of the boys' hands outside the same internet cafe he had actually abducted him from. So he had chopped off the boys' hands and then went back to the internet cafe which he had took him from and left them outside.
What, to draw attention to them? Or?
Yeah, he left a note apparently attached to them, but whatever was said on that note was never released to the public. Yeah, Again, they were just, a lot of this is kept very stum, very quiet. They're not trying to cause too much of a fuss. They don't really want too much getting out. But guess what, baby? Exposed right here, exclusive. We have the note. It says no. We don't have the note.
What I think is really extraordinary is that you've got this information and we're like Westerners.
Yeah.
And it's obviously been translated through Chinese, so there's going to be some sort of like translation issues.
Yeah.
And then they are withholding even more information, so it's like this could be even like just a quarter of the story
of what's happened. Yeah, no, 1,000,000%. It is literal Chinese whispers, right? Yeah, actual Chinese whispers. But no, to be fair, I'm really proud of this research that I did, because a lot of it I actually did have Google Translate from articles that were and blog posts and things that were put out there in different languages and things. So I tried to get as much as I possibly could, and certain articles only covered little bits and bobs, and it did take me a little while. So hats off to me to be able to piece together when a lot of this took place and how it took place in the sort of order.
Yeah, definitely.
Local parents felt helpless to protect their kids, with the police literally doing nothing to stop the disappearances. A group of parents actually banded together and headed to the capital of Beijing to take the news of the killings to the top. So they were like, if our police aren't going to fuck all about this, we have to do something, because our kids are just going missing. This is like some Nightmare on Elm Street shit. We got to take it to the top. Yeah. So again, it's the people gathering together and taking charge of the situation and doing something about it. It was only then, after pressure from the government, that the county police agreed to look into the case. But by this time, it was already far too late, of course, for many of Huang victims.
Were they all taken in the same sort of way?
Yeah. Like I say, all invited back. Okay. It's not like in some of these ones that we talk about, we can go through each individual person's name, and we can talk. This person did this, and then this was this. There's so little about each individual one that it's really, really hard to see what the differences were between each individual thing. So it was also around this time when the parents went to Beijing. That 16-year-old boy named Zhang Lei stumbled into the police station. Zhang was delirious, his body covered in bruises and lacerations. He told the police of a man he met in an internet cafe who offered him a job and invited him back to his house to play a game. There, he says, he was drugged and convinced to play a strange game where he was tied up and told to count to 1,000. While Zhang was counting, the man came up behind him and started to strangle him with a rope until he became unconscious. He woke, only to find the man sexually assaulting him, where he'd once again be strangled into unconsciousness. This pattern repeated itself a further 3 times.
Fuck.
So he woke up, and this is, to be fair, this kid is the only reason we know even these bits
Yeah.
about it. Without his statement, I doubt we would have known as